Welcome to the ABQ Accent, where catalysts, innovators, and risk takers share what their accent is on their work. Like a spoken accent, we all have an inflection or emphasis on where we put our energy. Join us to learn how these folks are putting their accents to work, building their vision of the future, and how you can get involved. Hello, and thank you all so much for being with us. I'm Mariah Harrison, and this is the ABQ Accent. Today I have Lindsey Kay with me. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. My pleasure, truly, and I will not get too emotional to extend that gratitude, but I am. Y'all might know Lindsey Kay, formerly as the Executive Director of Paws and Stripes, and she is now the Vice President of Client Services at WESST, in which she oversees 6 regions of managers and business consultants across the state. I'd love to hear more about that, because I want to know what those regions are, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's very exciting. So I've overseen an organization, but to this scope across the state, that's been very new for me. But it's also very exciting because I get to learn a whole lot more about New Mexico. So we have regions in Albuquerque, Rio Rancho, Santa Fe, Roswell, Las Cruces, and Farmington.
And these are all serving up-and-coming and existing small businesses?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll get into your tasks in that, because I know you only recently stepped down from the executive director, founder, and curator, really, of Paws and Stripes after 14 years.
It's a long time. Yeah.
So let's see if I get this right. You founded Paws and Stripes in 2010. You saw a need, and this need was not only recognized by our locals, but has been recognized nationally and internationally. I have here that you presented in Croatia at a conference, and there's a number of other recognitions we'll go through, so please bear with me while I read a little bit.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You can fill in the gaps if there are any. You're a hardworking woman. Paws and Stripes has grown from a small startup into an international leader in individualized model of care for service dog training and mental health services for our veterans and their loved ones, no less. In her time at Paws, she administered the ECHO program and raised no less than $12 million for New Mexico veterans. She has her master's in social work from Highlands and is also a Lobo. Thanks for giving your undergrad there. And I would like to say that, in reading your description of why you went to WESST, it was really beautiful for me, and we can expand on some of those reasons. But I think that now that you've been there for a little while, you're validating everything that you're saying here, and that is WEST's dedication to anti-racism, empowerment of women, BIPOC, and those facing poverty, along with their ongoing commitment to helping overcome systemic economic barriers that oppress and harm marginalized communities in New Mexico, resonates deeply with Lindsey's values. Yep, well written too. Lindsey's been recognized in local and national media, including Time magazine, received numerous recognitions, including the Association of Fundraising Professionals Young Nonprofit Professional Year of the Year Award, Glamour Magazine's Hometown Hero, 40 Under 40, who we all recognize that, the local Red Cross Heroes Award, the 2018 C-Suites Award for Nonprofit CEO, and she was only recognized in 2023, it took that long, to be a woman of influence here in Albuquerque. If you have been catching any of the A&E docuseries called Dogs of War, that was following the Paws and Stripes crew and their families. Lindsey has a patent. As I said earlier, she's presented at a conference in Croatia. She's been on Oprah. I love that you're here with me today. I feel honored to share this time.
I don't really know how to respond to that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, we aren't great at giving ourselves accolades, so please let those of us that care about you and your work do that.
Well, thank you. It's been a journey, to say the least. Yeah.
So let's learn more about that. Talk to me in your own words. I know you've given the spiel, but maybe you've a growing perspective. What brought you to the work at Paws? And take us into your transition to WESST, please.
Wow. So, I was thinking about this a little bit before the interview, and, I gotta say, there was never a point in my youth where I thought, I want to go into nonprofit work. Right. Mm-hmm. Never happened. I think that for a long time I wanted to maybe work for the FBI or be an artist, or there are a whole lot of other chef maybe. I had a lot of ideas, but truly the work that I did at Paws and Stripes, that was very much sort of the path. I was led into that path kind of naturally. I had moved to New Mexico in 2010, and I didn't know anyone here. I was with my partner at the time, and I was working in a veterinary clinic, and and my then partner had had been retired from the Army and had brain injury, was dealing with a lot of trauma.
Sure.
I was 24 years old. I was a new stepmom. So there was a lot of adjustment happening. And I had, by virtue of working in veterinary clinics, I was doing a lot of rescue work. And I had this thought that, all of the struggle that I saw my partner going through and trying to figure out how to help, I thought, well, I bet a dog could maybe help. Just made sense.
Good company.
You're a great company. And I adopted a rescue dog and noticed that, and her name was Sarge, and I noticed that she was doing a lot of things naturally to sort of help out and anticipating some things around anxiety or different episodes, migraines, so on. So I started doing some research, and I realized that dogs could do a whole lot for folks that I didn't quite realize. And also that there were so few organizations that were doing that work. And it was the ones that were, it was very cost prohibitive. And we were a new family. We didn't really have much that we could spend. So I just had this thought, well, I don't know, why don't I give it a go? It could be a great side project. I didn't really have a social network yet. It was just, I thought it might be an extracurricular. It really was sort of an extracurricular idea. And what I found very quickly was the need was tremendous. And there were actually folks out there like us that were looking for this very service. Yeah. So as soon as it was kind of out there in the world, I was busy. And fast forward a little less than a year, I realized, and we were experiencing homelessness and kind of hopping around couch to couch, lived in a camper for a little while. And I had, even in that precarity, I had to make a decision around, do I keep working for this low-paying job that I'm in currently and trying to do this on the side, or do I just go all the way in, quit my job, and try to pursue standing up this organization, knowing that right now I'm not getting paid to do it? And that's what I did. One of the scariest things I've ever done. And gosh, I'm glad I did it. Oh, yeah.
We are too. What an incredible decision-making tree you went through, emotionally, practically. Gosh, I think my word on this podcast is kudos, and that doesn't exemplify what we really owe you and the community at large. Can you talk a little more in depth about how you came to find that there was a need, that you recognized the gap, that, were you living among other veterans? How did that come across?
Well, the interesting thing about being so young in this new relationship and also having this tremendous learning curve, not just around being a partner, taking care of a family, becoming a parent, all of these things, but also having to be a caregiver for someone who had a whole lot of needs that I was just learning about. It's incredibly isolating to the partners as well, to those caregivers. And also being in a new place, I think that the only thing that I knew how to do well was try to solve a problem, and kind of out of nowhere. So I like to say that Paws and Stripes was really born out of lived experience, born out of sort of this perspective of being inside of the problem and being the person closest to living with PTSD, living with brain injury, and living in isolation myself. So, it was a small idea, I think, at first, of just bringing this dog in to help bring some skills in to help with the disability. But what I found was the more that I was involved in this and the more I invested my life in this work, it required so much more than just a dog, right? That was the spark. But the reality is that over the years, through my personal experience, through the community that was built through Paws and Stripes, I learned a whole lot about other folks' experiences, and we we evolved the program so much, and now there's this unique model of care that's this more holistic approach and integrative approach to working with trauma and working with families and working with these relationships between the human and dog and the family members and the community. And it's just sort of this like scaffolding approach now. So very mental health focused, but rooted in this concept of that relationship.
Yeah. Which is really beautiful. May I ask your dog's name at the time?
At the time, so the first service dog was Sarge.
Oh, that's right. You said that. And it's her,
yes. There are female surgeons too. Yeah.
I went to a couple of the galas that Paws and Stripes holds every year, and what you're mentioning about the community is not just rich, but it's really deep. I mean, people are passionate about the work that you do, about bringing people in, about raising awareness, and I think that's the community that you assisted in creating a space for was the other piece of that was needed, not just the services, but the community at large. And maybe that's why it reached so far across the nation and so forth.
I know it did. It reached incredibly deeply inside of me. I think what a lot of us found, those of us that are a part of this community in some way, similar for me, is this connection to people who get it, to people who have either lived it or lived next to it, or have some semblance of a connection to why it's important and how this work and this, not just the relationship with the dog, but like this network of folks, really, it's healing. And also survivors, a lot of survivors who have come together either from risk of suicide, having lost someone, domestic violence, again, loneliness and isolation, depression, I mean, you name it. So many survivors as well. So there's a tremendous power in that. You can kind of do anything when you come together. Yeah.
Like-minded, like-spirited, like-experienced.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's all ages of people that are able to take advantage of the program.
Yeah.
And some of their speeches at the gala were just, tearjerkers, to say the least. So I love to see it grow. I mean, it's right near my house. It's a couple blocks from my house, the facility. And so it's beautiful to see that have come to fruition over the years. I mean, you did a capital campaign for that, no less.
Yes, right? Yes. Very proud of that building. It was a vacant building for, I'm not even really sure now how many years, but it was quite a mess when we purchased it. But we had a donor donate the funds to buy it outright, and then we did a renovation. So we raised money for about a year. It's $1.5 million that we raised, and that's our forever home, and we own it. So, and I say we, it will always be some semblance of we. Obviously, my heart will always be with Paws, but yeah, it's and the Paws team is a beautiful family, and that's just the home. That's the home base, I guess. Who knows what will happen in the future, but
and it's in good hands now too.
It's in wonderful hands, absolutely.
And we'll add the link at the bottom. I think it's pawsandstripes.org.
Yes.
People want to volunteer, support,
absolutely,
learn, participate. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Always want to lift up that group. Is there anything else you want to add? I mean, where are you sitting? Might be too personal. Go with it where you will. Emotionally leaving that role.
Well, just a minute ago I said we, right? I'm definitely still, so I think I'm around 3 months since I've left. Maybe a little 3.5 months. Yeah, it's been I keep saying it's been a journey, but it's also been this, I've had to try to create space to process it. There's a lot of joy in being able to sort of hand it off to the next iteration. And I feel just so good about the timing and how everything happened, and just who's stewarding the organization now, the whole team, not just my successor, but that all just makes my heart swell for sure. Yeah. And I certainly just so miss everyone. I still keep in touch with a lot of the folks still at Paws, and I swing by when I can. So there's some grief, but I mean, genuinely, I feel so good about it. So I think that if anything, I'm trying to navigate just 14 years is a long time for, Paws and Stripes was just so much of my life that I still can't quite make that pivot yet to not say we, and at the same time, I still feel that connection, right? And, I go and participate when I can. I love seeing everyone and want to go hug everyone and say hi, but, and clients too. I love our clients. It's just a bittersweet thing. But ultimately, I'm so glad that I did what I did when I did it. And I think it was the best thing for Paws too. Absolutely. It was the right time.
There's something about the universe telling us when and what, and the legacy you've left is really powerful. So it's good. I'm glad to hear that you feel that way too. I haven't gotten to know the new executive director, but I look forward to doing that.
Yes.
Yeah. So what else? I mean, there are other things in your life. I think. I mean, you've lived and breathed this organization and the people surrounding it and the community. And, I think you're no stranger to new scenarios and adapting to new situations. So tell me a little bit more about your updated role.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting shift, and it's really wonderful because I'm being challenged in new ways, a new environment, a new team, new mission focus, all of which it's very exciting. And I have to say, the team of folks that I work with now, I also really genuinely love. It didn't take a whole lot of time to feel like a part of the team, which was really great. And I'm excited every week when I get to work on new projects with folks there. So I think that the learning curve has really been adjusting to, a new organization with a little bit of a different culture, and my role being so different, but also having such a wide scope geographically. It's been interesting to learn how to lead a little bit differently with that kind of a reach. And not just because of the distance, but also because every region is so different.
True, yeah.
And, this is New Mexico, right? But we are such a diverse state. I mean, whether you're talking about the landscape it's a beautiful state and so many cultures, so many different, even just thinking about the artisans that we work with across the state, it's really remarkable to see how many unbelievably talented folks we have here.
Yeah. I bet.
And it's always changing. There's always new things to see, new stories to hear, people to meet. And so it's been a shift, but it's been kind of like that injection of something new and challenging that I think I didn't know I needed quite to the degree that I did. So it's been great. Yeah.
Can you give us an example of some of those artisans and maybe what does it mean to be VP of Client Services?
Oh man. So yeah.
You're supporting the supporters.
Yeah. So I essentially oversee all of our regional managers in each region, and each region has consultants and trainers that work directly with the communities. So providing consulting, mentoring, coaching, training for anyone who's looking to start their own business, thinking about an idea, just needs financial literacy training for something, or they already have a business and they need to grow it, or there's something they want to add. We also have a micro-lending program, so we can pair them up with our lending program for we are trying to create access to wealth, access to capital, and access to education for folks that may not have ready access to that. And when I think about the stories that really stick with me with the clients that we serve, I think that it's easy to reach for the super successful business stories, right? This person started this company and now they're doing really great and they're making money and they're growing, and sure.
Yeah, ideally on paper, great.
Right. But I think the ones that stick with me are the little victories for folks, someone who gets excited because they understand how to budget. They can actually look at their projection for the year and they understand it and they suddenly have a sense of like relief because they can manage this on their own and it doesn't feel scary and new. Absolutely. Or someone who had always dreamed of selling their art and doing that with their mother-daughter businesses. There's so many like that hearing their story about it's usually a craft that they've been doing for many years together, and now they're going to go into business together. There's an apothecary shop in Rio Rancho that does that, and it's really neat just to hear sort of these family crafts and stories that they've rolled into a business model.
I might be partial to apothecaries. What's it called?
Yes. Let's see. I believe it's. Oh gosh.
You can always tell.
I will send you the website for that. Yeah.
Because we want to promote that too.
Yes.
And people maybe rolling back a little bit might not be entirely familiar with WESST. You've given it a good overview. It supports growing businesses. What's the acronym?
WESST, Women's Economic Self-Sufficiency Team. It was born out of an idea from 3 women that were working at P&M, and I believe, in the 80s, and it has so much bigger now. Yeah.
And it's available for men and families.
Yes,
right?
anyone.
The acronym
anyone.
is more its formal name now.
Yes.
Gosh, I'm so glad you're there. I might start a business just so I can say I went to WESST when Lindsey was there. I digress. So, like I said, you're relatively new there, but is there maybe something you've already recognized in a particular region that has a really powerful type of sector in the work that they're doing?
Oh, absolutely.
Or maybe could use some assistance or something you want to say about a particular region that you think has struck you?
Well, gosh, all of our regions are doing amazing work. Yeah. And I would love to highlight some of the work that's happening in our Farmington region. We have, as a part of those programs, we have a program called Native Women Rising.
Right, I've heard of them. Absolutely incredible.
Yes. So our regional manager, Dawn, and her team have created this program that was born out of working with families of missing and murdered Indigenous folks and helping empower them to start their own businesses. And most of the time in order to fund initiatives to try to find these relatives that were missing. And it's grown so much from there. So working with folks in the Navajo Nation, in New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, it's such a large reach and so many individuals who've been able to take advantage of those and helping those families.
That's fabulous. I got a little bit of tingles.
Yeah.
That's powerful work.
Yeah.
And it's very needed.
Yes.
That's cool. So that's out of Farmington. And maybe, what has surprised you about coming to this role? About yourself, about the state?
Oh, man. Surprised me. I think I had seen a lot of New Mexico, but I hadn't been able to experience all of the different communities quite in the same way and learn as much about the people in these beautiful parts of the state. Because, you sort of go in for a weekend, maybe you go camping or you visit a town and then you come home. And I definitely love Albuquerque. But now I get to go into these communities and learn about the people who live there and sort of the businesses that are starting up, but the stories behind those businesses and why that's important to them. Why is this recipe for pad thai the perfect recipe? It comes from this whole story with their family. And there are just so many really neat stories about people who have either found their way to this part of New Mexico or have always been here. And it's about people. It's about people connecting them and really celebrating who they are.
That makes sense to me that would resonate with you, because I think that's something that you recognize, the need to tell stories, and that, it's even on brand with your brand management type of style, your visionary, your creative side. And those are powerful. If there's a way that we can contribute to supporting those stories, we will. Yeah. So we don't have a lot of time yet, and I want to dive into a little bit more about you. Are there things that you're keeping yourself occupied with? Earlier you said you're creating space to do some processing. Are you reading? Are you walking? Are you going to a particular bookstore?
Oh, wow. Well, I am an avid reader. I read over 100 books a year.
You do not.
I do.
Oh, wow.
You have to follow me on Goodreads.
Okay.
Share. I've loved reading since I was, as soon as I could read. When I was small, my dad and I, it was our thing. We would go to the library together every week and sort of stack up books that we wanted to take home. And I was a voracious reader. So that's really kind of carried through into adulthood. So that's how I fill a lot of the downtime, but also a lot of hiking, getting out into nature, disconnecting is really, really important, and spending time with my dogs and with my partner and my close friends. So yeah, just enjoying New Mexico too, and all of the beauties that it has.
We're in a beautiful time of year right now.
Yes.
To do that.
Yes.
Like
That's why I'm going camping.
Oh,
yes.
good.
Do it now.
Yeah, do it now. Don't tell anybody your secret spots.
Yeah.
Did you do anything in particular for Labor Day?
Yeah, I went hiking. I did some hiking and spent a lot of time with my kiddo. She's 7, and we kind of trumped around the woods and looked at rocks and many cactuses, and she didn't fall in any, so that was good. It's better than me. I tend to trip and fall in cactuses. But really just downtime, which is something I haven't had a whole lot of with moving and changing jobs and everything and finishing grad school. So yeah, just spending time outside with the family.
I mean, you finished both college and your master's while you were working full-time as an executive director. Can I offer you a virtual nap? Just
Yes, I will take it.
No coffee, maybe decaf tea. And there really is, my last guest last week, Matt Carter, talked specifically about that, of getting out into the outdoors and just being with yourself in nature. There's whatever you're seeking can often be found in those moments when you need it. So.
It's true. The quiet and the stillness, and really being grounded. And I love to just sit and listen to the sound. If you can, be in the woods too, the sound of the wind going through the trees and just being present. And it's harder to do that elsewhere, right? Yeah.
So what about the work that you're doing right now? Do you feel maybe is most innovative, and or that you would like people to know more about?
WESST has such a brilliant group of folks doing the work there.
True.
There's this constant look at how to innovate, how do we teach, and how do we respond to the needs of the people in our communities. And
culture there, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that the way that everyone sort of comes together and really is constantly creative in a certain way to address those arising needs. We're noticing that people, for example, people are still asking to network more and see people in person. We do a lot of online trainings and events, but being able to have that person-to-person interaction is really valuable to people, not just for business starts, but also just for community building. Or what are specific challenges that maybe creatives in the community experience that folks that are starting other kinds of businesses may not run into, and how do we generate some sort of training materials or bring in third parties to help sort of navigate those unique challenges. So I think just being responsive, for sure.
Being accessible. I mean,
yes,
just like you were saying earlier, in a number of different ways.
Yeah.
And so again, I'll just say I think you're in the right place at the right time, because you're supporting all of those values that you mentioned that WESST is doing. And also, let's chat just briefly in the warm up, in the wrap up. We're going to warm up to the wrap up by asking, given your experience often having the spotlight on you and being a decision maker and kind of knowing the ropes and designing the ropes, what would you like to say to folks that right now are in the community trying to find something to do with their energy and their challenges? It's a lot, because I feel like so much is happening right now, and people are like, I don't know what to do about what I care about.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah, there is a lot going on. I think you have to think about so I tend to come back, oftentimes my anchors are in values. So what are your values? What are the things that are most important to you that really keep you grounded and anchored yourself? And what are the things that are going to really resonate in that space, and sort of locking yourself in there. I think that rings true both with your work, whatever your job might be, but also in your personal life, with your family, with your friends, or whatever, whatever your world looks like. Leaning into those, doing work, whether it's serving others, whether it's filling your own cup and enriching your own needs. But linking back there and starting there. I just think, because it's the answer to that question, I think it's just so different for every person. Sure. Yeah. And always, everybody needs help sometimes. And I think all of us probably need a little extra help right now. Yeah.
Agreed. It's okay to ask for help, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
And going back to your values.
And it's okay to say no.
And it's okay to say no.
It's a whole sentence. Yeah.
Reminder to ourselves too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on that note, thank you so much. I really do think you're doing great work now, and I appreciate your time and just your voice, your heart.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you.
You bet. So thanks again, Lindsey, and thanks to everybody for joining us today. We hope you show up for another ABQ Accent.